Spot of tea, love.
It says to let it sit 10 to 15 minutes. Oh no.
I just burnt the shit out of my leg.
That's
Okay,
your
so
saucer.
I'm not supposed to touch.
Well, it's your saucer.
Can... Saucer.
Oh my god.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday, and welcome back to the Ride Home Podcast. My name is Abby.
Hey guys, it's Caitlin.
Unfortunately, yet again, we are back in our house because, yet again, it is storming.
And this time, it's worse.
It's one of the worst lightning storms I've ever been in.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we're in a disaster movie right now.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Geostorm.
But no ceiling tiles
No.
fell.
It's
during
barely
this movie.
raining.
Yeah.
It's just constant lightning and thunder. And by constant, I mean literally constant.
It hasn't stopped.
So we are back in our apartment recording at home. So if you hear some rumbling of thunder or the meowing of a cat, we're at home right now.
Yes, that is why.
So tonight we saw a movie that I think both of us were pretty excited for.
I was unsure how
You were
I felt
unsure.
going
Okay.
into this movie.
I was very excited. We are both big Jordan Peele fans. Us was great, but of course the number one Jordan Peele horror movie is Get Out, which I think is your favorite horror movie of all time.
Yes,
correct?
It is.
So we are just massive Jordan Peele fans, and so we were super excited to see his newest movie, which is called Nope.
Mm-hmm.
So coming out of the theater, obviously we've had some time to ruminate on everything since we had the drive home and getting the animals settled. What are your initial thoughts?
So I know just a second ago I said that going into this movie I was unsure.
Mm-hmm.
Of course I was excited because I love Jordan Peele. Like you
Right.
said, we're huge fans of Jordan Peele.
Right.
My initial thoughts are he is a genius.
Mm-hmm.
And this was amazing.
Those are some lofty words.
I didn't expect to feel this way.
Yeah?
I really was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did.
Well, because you're not that much of a sci-fi gal.
No,
And
I'm not.
it was billed very much sci-fi horror genre, kind of like Close Encounters.
Yeah, like a similar thing.
Yeah. I think for me, I am going to say that I absolutely loved a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much disliked some of it,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Sure.
I did see a couple of spoiler-free reviews on TikTok that hyped me up a little bit too much, and they were dropping words that were like something of all time or like best movie of the year, like phrases like that made me get a little bit buttered up. So I could be slightly biased, and I'm not saying that I hated it by any stretch of the imagination. I loved it. But the first, I want to say 2 acts, I felt really struggled to get their footing. Without spoiling anything, there is a flashback, I guess we'll call it, that is cut within the movie. So you're getting present day time and then you're going into the flashback. And I think the flashback felt so disconnected from the rest of the movie that really until you got to the final conclusion, you didn't really understand why it was in there. But it wasn't a satisfying oh, I get it now. It was just kind of
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I kind of agree with that. I think it was interesting because the flashback was kind of the first scene of the movie. And everyone around us was what the hell?
Literally everyone.
Yeah. And I thought that too. But then I don't know. I felt like it made sense. It connected it eventually.
It did.
There was no connection at the beginning.
Right.
But eventually it made a connection. And we could have done without it, but not.
See,
I don't know.
I liked having it in there. I think for me, what I didn't like about how they handled this flashback is that it wrapped up too early.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like it was only incorporated into the first 2 acts of the movie. And so when you get into the third act, which is, you know, obviously in any like sci-fi or horror movie, it's just constant action. We never like went back to it. And it just felt like it was just so out of place because it wasn't a part of the whole movie, if that makes sense.
No, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. I also think that as much as I love him as an actor, Daniel Kaluuya's performance in this movie was spotty at times, I felt, where, you know, sometimes he was playing this captivating character that you were rooting for, and then in other scenes he was just like,
he was kind of checked out,
the flattest human being, which I know was
part of the character,
but it when you're first getting to know a character, having them just be completely deadpan is not doing you any favors, because it took me again until the third act to actually care about him. I struggled with forming an emotional connection at the beginning, which, especially for horror movies, when there's quote unquote peril towards the end, the only way that's satisfying is if you care about the people in the movie.
I kind of actually agree with that. You were not really particularly invested in him because he was very flat.
Like, just
sometimes I wanted to be like, hello?
Yeah.
Like, are you okay? Like, are you gonna talk? Like,
and I think what was interesting is they didn't even give us a reason for him being that way. Because it's not like he had PTSD. It's not like he had like these explanation for why he was basically a shell of a human. But I think when you had these really charismatic characters around him, it just like he stuck out like a sore thumb as being like, I just had a question in my brain of like, why did they choose to direct him that way and play him that way?
It didn't feel like it was an acting choice, because we all know, like you said, Daniel Kaluuya can act circles around people. Right. And like, look at him and Get Out. Like, he was amazing. Yeah. But like, definitely felt like direction, because you had Keke Palmer, who was like
turning up.
Yeah, like acting.
Literally the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, it's bringing the most energy to the entire film, honestly.
Yeah. And like Steven Yeun's character, he's always just like in anything that he's in, for me, like whether it's The Walking Dead or like Minari, like he's just like the star of the show when he's on screen. Like obviously like he wasn't the lead character and, you know, whatever, but when he is on screen, it's just like he's just captivating to watch. And so I think that's another thing, was that in all of the scenes that Daniel's character OJ was with other people, he was so outshined that it was hard to get to know him. And it's not that like there aren't introverted people in the world. Obviously, like it was kind of cool and interesting to have like a quieter. I was gonna say
maybe that was kind of the point. Like maybe it was like, we're gonna let the introverts have a little moment for a second, which like as an introvert, it's like I appreciate that. Like sometimes we are in the foreground, but you just don't really notice us because there's louder people than us.
I just felt I'll just say it very plainly. I felt like the first half of the movie was a little disjointed and a little sloppy.
Okay.
And I wish that it wasn't, because if it had just been as amazing as the third act was, then I would have agreed with all of the reviews that I read that this is like one of the best sci-fi movies released recently.
I don't agree because because I think because I respect Jordan Peele so much and I love him, I just feel like there was a reason for everything that he did. Like it was all on purpose.
I agree with that, and it was funny because like as I was watching the movie, I was like, okay, so what's the symbolism? Because like everything is like a symbol with him.
Yeah.
But when I think about directors that are a little bit more complex, like a Jordan Peele, where you think that everything has a meaning and I feel like you end up forgiving them for like mistakes that they make because you're like, oh, well, they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
But like a really good complex director can also make really bad choices.
Sure, of course.
And so I feel like this was my first witnessing of Jordan Peele kind of fumbling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not fumbling totally, just a little bit. And
Right.
so I think it threw me off slightly. Still pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm a more forgiving person in general than you. So it's no surprise that I'm just going to stick to my guns on this one and just be in the camp of he did it for a reason and I'm okay with it. And I'm not going to fault him for it because I really do think he's a genius and I think he has such a good vision for telling a story. And I think one of the reviews that you showed me on TikTok, like the girl was talking about like the visual storytelling. And I thought about that like the entire time. I was like, man, like he really was not playing around like with the visual storytelling.
For this specific movie, he got probably the most qualified director of photography to shoot a sci-fi movie.
Okay.
His name is Hoyt van Hoytema. I don't know how to say that name. It's Dutch Swedish.
Okay.
But he was the director of photography for Tenet, Ad Astra, Dunkirk, a James Bond movie, Interstellar, and he also was the director of photography for Let the Right One In, which is a vampire horror movie. So he has both like horror and sci-fi in his background and action.
Yeah.
And so like he was literally the most perfect person that Jordan could have hired for this movie. And if I can give an A+ to any film this year, I think this was one of my favorite, like in terms of cinematography.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100% actually.
Yeah.
There were a few moments that felt a little bit Hitchcock to me. And then there were a few moments that felt a little bit like old Western to me. And there was like just some nods to like old film that I really liked. And then also very futuristic, of course, imagery with the space stuff going on.
Right.
That we won't really spoil too much of, but everyone clearly knows this is a movie about aliens and space related items. So one of the moments that felt particularly Hitchcock to me was when they were in the house and the blood was running down the window. I was like, ooh, that's something Hitchcock would have done. Yeah. Like it just... And like the house was old.
Honestly,
and
the house itself kind of was like a horror house. I do agree that the way things were shot were a little different based on the scene that you were in. Like there were some very classic horror scenes. Like actually one of the scariest scenes in the entire movie doesn't even involve aliens. And it's just very classic jump scare. And it was shot like a traditional horror movie. And then there are scenes that you are in a corral with horses and it's those big wide shots that feel like very Western, and you kind of lose the fact that you're like in the modern world. Even like there's Steven Yeun's character is dressed like a cowboy most of the time. Right. So I think I agree that even though like each of the styles are so different, like whatever scene it was in was perfect for that scene.
It flowed so perfectly and it all fit together so well. And it didn't feel, even with the flashback kind of being disjointed.
If we are talking about just the basic plot, because you don't want to spoil anything for this movie. OJ and Emerald are a brother and sister duo who inherit a horse ranch after their father passes away. And this horse ranch is where they train Hollywood horses, so horses that are in movies. And they're struggling to find their footing after their father's death, and some really strange things start happening. Their father's death was questionable and all that. And basically they very quickly figure out that it's aliens. And just like in the trailer, they end up hiring someone to set up surveillance at their house because their goal is to catch this on camera so that they can make the money to basically buy back their horses that they've had to sell and rebuild their brand and their ranch.
Right.
So that's just the basic nuts and bolts, but oh my God, it is so much more complicated than that. One of the biggest themes, which I think you'll agree with, are society and our culture's obsession with filming everything.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that too, and it was kind of not a very subtle theme. It was very out there. And another thing is like the obsession, I think, with our culture of not missing an opportunity to kind of like capitalize on surveillance.
What was super interesting was one of the earliest shots that we have of OJ's character, who is the lead. He is making a phone call and it's with a flip phone. And so basically, like, from the start, he is very separate from the rest of them, that he is not really a part of that, like, chase for fame and chase for riches and for, all of that. Which even there is a character that is so obsessed with getting the shot or getting, that what they're trying to get, that they even put themselves, like, directly in harm's way to do it. And it's interesting because, I mean, people do that in real life. Like, there was a story I read very recently, like, in the news, that a man literally fell inside of a volcano because he was trying to get a picture.
My God.
Somehow he, like, caught an edge and they were able to take him out. But, like, literally just to get the picture, the shot, he fell into a volcano. And people do that shit all the time. And so I think, like, that commentary, even though it was, like, very on the nose, was valuable because it is very true about our society. Is nothing that is traumatic can just be left by itself. It has to be filmed. And this very much was the case. And not only filmed, but, like, capitalized on.
Yes, because what I was just thinking about, the sister is, like, obsessed with it. She keeps calling it the Oprah shot. Like, they're going to get it and they're going to, like, it's going to be Oprah worthy, quote unquote.
Right.
And I kept thinking to myself, did Oprah, like, pay to have them keep saying her name and talk about her show? Because, like,
I wouldn't put it past her, to be honest.
The Oprah Winfrey Show hasn't been on TV in a long time, which, like, R.I.P. I was a huge fan of the Oprah Winfrey Show.
I was just about to panic because I was like, did I miss Oprah Winfrey dying? Because you said R.I.P. and I was like, wait a second. No,
R.I.P.
she's alive.
the Oprah Winfrey Show. Yeah. Because, like, what a hallmark of our culture that was. But, like, they really referenced Oprah a lot. And there was even a scene where she was, like, watching an old Oprah Winfrey, like, episode on her phone. And I was like, that is so, like, what a strange reference to choose.
She probably asked to be in it, but he didn't want to cast her because, like, the second, like, Oprah is in it, it's just like, Oprah's one of those people that, like, even though she is, like, a good actress, like, she was great in The Color Purple. Like, once you see Oprah, like, it's just Oprah. Like, she can't be another person.
She isn't anyone else besides Oprah.
They just slipped it in with a reference instead.
I loved it, but I was also like, okay, we've said Oprah a lot. Like, something had to have been done to make this happen.
Right. The funniest thing that I was thinking of, actually, whenever they were setting up all of the surveillance cameras, it made me think of, like, our old neighborhood. And, like, if there was an alien invasion over Park Circle, there would have been, like, 75 ring camera shots posted to the Crime Watch within seconds.
Yeah, there would have been a whole Facebook group about tracking the alien activity.
We lived in this neighborhood that was obsessive over their ring camera footage.
Yes.
So much to the point that, like, it actually almost was one of the reasons why we moved.
It was a part of it.
It was a part of it.
Part of it.
And they every little move that somebody made that was a little bit out of the ordinary, they had to post it online, and it was a whole big thing. And I just kept thinking about, like, when they were setting up those, like, home security cameras to catch the aliens. I was just like, this is 1,000% what would happen in Park Circle. Like,
yes. There were even scenes where they would, like, go back and, like, rewatch the footage from the previous night or the previous day and, like, rewind it and rewatch it and rewind it and rewatch it. And it's like our culture has become so obsessed with filming everything that sometimes we don't even enjoy the thing that we're actually doing because we're trying to record it, whether it be photos or boomerangs or videos or something for our Instagram story. Like, sometimes just go out to dinner. Like, you don't have to take pictures of it.
Right.
But, like, I'm just as guilty of this. Right. But, like, I think it really is crazy, like, how far we've come with...
I think, too, it played into the idea of us just as a society being so desensitized because of how much we film and because, like, everybody sees themselves as, like, a cinematographer, that they don't actually... They're looking at whatever they're filming through the phone, and so they don't actually process, like, what is happening. And that happens with the characters, is that they're literally interacting with a fucking alien spaceship. And they don't really seem that scared because they're obsessed with getting the shot. And I think that is, I mean, there are moments of, terror and peril, but for the most part, any person, if there was a saucer hovering over your house, would just pack up your shit and leave.
Absolutely. I'm getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
It will not be me who's getting got by aliens.
I thought that the CGI and the VFX were outstanding.
I thought so too. I was blown away.
Not a single shot looked cheap.
No,
it was gorgeous and detailed, and there were some scenes in the third act that it's funny because, like, the third act obviously is supposed to be, like, heart racing and exciting and scary, but there were some scenes that were just so beautiful that I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
I was the same way. And it was even like, wow, this is like peril, but I was still like, wow. It's such beautiful peril.
Gorgeous peril.
Peril, you're so beautiful.
Oh my God, Peril. That's queen.
Peril is serving looks.
Oh my God. Anyways, I genuinely, like, I know I can be a little bit harsh, and I have to repeat myself that I did love this movie. I think if I was to rank Jordan Peele movies, it would still be Get Out at the top for sure. I think that is still his masterpiece.
100%.
But this is definitely better than Us.
Oh, yeah.
I think. So rating this is hard for me because I truly do believe that it deserves a large popcorn. And I'm still going to give it a large popcorn with the knowledge that even a large popcorn has its faults.
Sure.
I understand why there is a group of critics that are not jiving with it because there are some parts of it that did fumble a little bit and struggled. And I understand that could completely turn some people off.
Sure.
And there are going to be a lot of people that I honestly and genuinely think that there are going to be probably 5% of people who see this movie might be considering walking out in the first 20 minutes. They might be, if they don't stick with it, I could see them, being like, okay.
Right.
So if you do plan to see this, I will say just stick with it.
Please stick with it. It's no surprise that it's a large popcorn for me as well. And I agree with your rankings of his movies as well. Get Out will always be my favorite.
So good.
It's just so good. But I definitely like this better than Us. I think the story was better. The visuals were better. It was just, I don't know, it's just a better story and a better movie.
So I hope you guys get the chance to go and see it this weekend or during this coming week. And speaking of this coming week, we are actually going to be taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see you guys again August 5th with a review of Brad Pitt's new movie, Bullet Train, which we are both pretty jazzed about.
Wait.
It might suck, but I
hope it doesn't.
love Brad Pitt so much.
Me too.
And the trailers have been so much fun, so I think it's just going to be a really fun movie to go see.
Yeah,
There's been a lot of good movies this year.
They really have.
It's just
2022 is bringing the heat with the movies.
It's bringing the heat and it's bringing the audiences. I've been noticing just like packed theaters every time we go.
I'm not gonna lie, I love having the theater to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it started to get a little sad.
Yeah.
When it was just like us and like one other couple in the movie theater.
I know. Would I like more room, and would I like to put my feet up on
Abby
the back
needs
of a
more
chair?
elbow room.
My shoulders are too big for movie theater chairs. I'm always like my shoulders are pinched in and I come out with like
back problems.
Yeah, I mean, I got plenty of those to spare.
Yes, we know.
But yeah, it is really nice to see theaters filled up again, and just excited to see what else 2022 brings us.
Definitely.
All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.